Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2 is finally bringing two characters together in a way fans have been waiting for, but the more we see of it, the more obvious it becomes that it's not going to go smoothly. The show has been building toward this moment for a while, slowly pushing Georgie and Mandy into situations where they can't avoid confronting the deeper issues between them. But now that the series is finally forcing them to deal with those tensions head-on, it's clear that neither of them is fully prepared for what that actually means. On the surface, the season is presenting their reunion, or at least their attempts to reconnect, as something hopeful. They're talking more, spending more time together, and trying to figure out what a stable future looks like. But underneath all of that, there's this quiet pressure building. Georgie still has unresolved insecurities about not being enough for Mandy, especially now that her career is growing and she's stepping into a more public role. Mandy, meanwhile, is trying to stay patient with Georgie, but she's clearly getting tired of being the one who has to keep the peace every time he spirals or gets overwhelmed. Bringing these two characters together right now isn't really about romance, it's about collision. They're on two different emotional paths, and when those paths intersect, it creates friction instead of resolution. Georgie wants to hold on to the life he imagined for them, a simple, traditional marriage where he provides, she supports, and everything stays predictable. Mandy, on the other hand, is finally discovering independence. She's building a career, meeting new people, and realizing she doesn't have to shrink herself to make her relationship work. What makes all of this more complicated is that Georgie is trying. He's genuinely putting in the effort, but effort doesn't automatically erase the patterns he developed over years of insecurity. When he gets scared, he shuts down. When he feels threatened, he lashes out or becomes defensive. And when he doesn't know how to communicate something, he just avoids the conversation altogether. That's exactly the kind of behavior that led to their problems the first time around, and the show isn't pretending it magically disappeared. So when Season 2 forces them back into each other's orbit, it's not a cute, easy reunion. It's tense. It's awkward. It's full of small moments where both of them want to do the right thing but end up making each other feel worse instead of better. And that's why bringing them together right now looks like trouble. Not because they don't care about each other, but because they're both changing and they haven't figured out how to grow in the same direction. The show is also clearly setting up outside pressure that will test their relationship. Mandy's job puts her in the spotlight, which is something Georgie was never prepared to handle. She's interacting with people who see her differently, who see her as talented and ambitious, two things Georgie has always been secretly intimidated by. And instead of talking about it, he tries to act unaffected, which just creates more distance. Mandy senses that something is off, but she's also tired of pausing her life to soothe Georgie's fears. On Mandy's side, she's trying to trust Georgie again, but trust doesn't magically rebuild just because two people decide to give things another chance. She remembers how quickly things fell apart last time. She remembers the lies, the avoidance, and the emotional weight she had to carry. So every time Georgie hesitates or gets defensive, she's reminded of the version of him she doesn't want to deal with again. And this is exactly why the reunion doesn't look like it's heading for a happy outcome anytime soon. The show isn't writing their relationship as a fairy tale. It's writing it as something messy and complicated, where both people are trying to evolve but keep tripping over who they used to be. It's honest. It's realistic. And it's probably going to hurt before it gets better. The interesting part is that the show isn't pushing viewers to pick a side. It's not saying Georgie is the problem or Mandy is the one who needs to change. Instead, it's highlighting how two people can genuinely care about each other and still struggle to coexist when their lives are moving at different speeds. So yes, Season 2 is finally bringing Georgie and Mandy closer again, but everything about the way their story is unfolding suggests that this reunion is going to be rocky. There's growth, but there's tension. There's effort, but there's fear. There's love, but there's doubt. And the show is leaning into all of it, showing us that relationships don't fall apart because people stop caring. They fall apart when the caring isn't enough to bridge the gap between who they were and who they're becoming. If anything, this storyline proves that bringing these two characters back together isn't the end of their conflict. It's the beginning of a much harder conversation they've avoided for too long. And whether they navigate it successfully or not is exactly what's going to define the rest of the season.